Welcome back, Alien fans. Ever since Ridley Scott gave us Alien back in 1979, this franchise has grown in every regard. Movies, fan-made fictions, comics, you name it, we've got it. And in the center of all that, there are the Xenomorphs, the dangerous species that our heroes have to go against over and over again, and each time the stakes are higher, the creatures are more dangerous than before, and you gotta wonder, just how deadly can these creatures get? Well, fear not, my lovely viewer, because today that's exactly what we're getting into. Join us on this jaw-dropping journey where we cover Xenomorph variants you've probably never heard of. This is underrated and obscure Xenomorph variants that no one talks about. Before we get into our list, though, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The King Alien. Aliens Rogue 1993 comic. The first Xenomorph we have for you is the King Alien. This creature made his first appearance in the 1993 miniseries Aliens Rogue, published by Dark Horse Comics. Xenomorphs are born out of necessity. They're a product of evolution, if you will. But this one? Nah, this one wasn't created by evolution. In fact, it was created by human experimentation. The good old Jurassic Park route, you know what I mean? The scientists knew about the alien queen and wondered what would happen if there was an alien king. Would he dominate the hive hierarchy, or would he be an equal competitor? Now, we don't need a science degree to tell that that's a really bad idea, right guys? But despite all the odds, they created this creature and it was everything you could think of and worse. It was a massive, brutish version of the Xenomorph that went against pretty much everything we know about the species. This alien king was far bulkier and longer than the queen, but not in a regal way. What we mean is, when you look at the queen's form, you would notice that there's this elegance about her physique, but not this guy. The alien king had an armored exoskeleton and a monstrous physique. The jaw structure of this creature was even more fearsome, and you can clearly see that there's a raw and brutal side to the creature, much like the original H.R. Giger design. The evidence of genetic tampering is in the design itself. When it comes to abilities, the alien king was far more durable and stronger than any Xenomorph. In fact, this king alien could easily fight the queen and drones with ease. So, when you have someone who's powerful in comparison to others, of course they end up becoming power hungry. The alien king effectively ruled the hive like a tyrant, using his physical strength to overpower anyone who dared to go against him. Needless to say, this tactic was a lot less subtle in comparison to the queen's way of ruling. Thematically speaking, you could say that the queen symbolizes the laws of nature, while the king represents human hubris, mankind's ancient tendency to manipulate nature's perfection just to fit their mold. Now, since we're on the topic of the King Xenomorph, we have to mention the fan reception of this character. Fans are still debating whether or not they should consider the king canon. Some argue that Xenomorph biology inherently rejects the idea of a male counterpart because the species thrived without any such thing for decades. But on the other hand, some fans feel like the King Alien is an interesting what-if that's definitely worth considering in the canon. The male counterpart serves a greater narrative purpose, expanding the comic universe in interesting and experimental ways. Whether we consider the King Alien canon or not is up for debate, but what we'll never question is the impact the King Alien had on the alien mythos, even though he's not discussed as much as the more popular variants. Crocodile Alien. Kenner Toy Line, 1990s. Yup, you heard right. There was actually a crocodilian version of the alien. Back in 1992, the toy company Kenner gave us alien action figures and accessories based on the second Alien film, Aliens. And the main meat and potatoes of this franchise was combining the Xenomorph with Earth animals to give us cool and deadly alien animal hybrids. Now, most of these are considered non-canon, because of course they are, but the designs of these animals captured fans' imaginations and ended up inspiring the depiction of aliens in the comics and expanded lore. Now, the crocodile alien is probably exactly what you're imagining. Its body has a thick, armored plating clearly designed after crocodilian scales. It also has an elongated snout lined with snapping teeth. It also has this long, muscular tail which makes it perfect for aquatic attacks. So you can tell that this creature's design immediately stands out from the otherwise smoothness that Xenomorphs usually have. The visual blend of reptile and alien isn't only striking, it's also extremely memorable. Because of this design, the crocodile alien can hunt both on land and in water. Its formidable jaw and armor make it an extremely scary predator. This character design not only shows us the horrifying take on Earth animals, it also expands on the idea that Xenomorphs can take on host traits to an extreme degree, effectively showcasing just how adaptable they can be as creatures and killers. The crocodile alien, despite being such a cool concept, never showed up in films. However, it gained recognition in expanded material such as the Aliens Genocide Red comic. In this comic, we saw other crab-like and reptilian variants of aliens, so in a way, this comic gave the toy line a bit of a footing in the lore, if you want to call it that. In fact, some fans even claim that because of the crocodile alien, we got to see the aquatic horror aspect of the Xenomorphs. And even though the creatures were grotesque, the crocodile alien ended up becoming the cult favorite amongst Kenner's toy line because of the bold design. Today, collectors treat the crocodile alien as a relic from an era where creativity ran wild in the Alien franchise, because the decision to create a toy line based on this franchise for kids was an extremely ballsy move. Flying alien / winged xenomorph. I can't even keep my cool when cockroaches start flying around, so to imagine a winged version of the xenomorph is absolutely terrifying. As you can guess, our protagonists end up coming across xenomorphs with bat-like wings, and then chaos ensues. For fans and protagonists, this was a shocking twist that nobody was expecting. These winged xenomorphs are extremely striking to look at. They're a mix of both insectoid and alien features, but with these membranous wings on them, which sprout from their back. Their skulls and talons remain like the original Xenomorph version, but when you add the wings into the mix, they immediately become nightmarish. You could say that the visual design is half gothic horror imagery and half biomechanical. Thanks to the wings, the Xenomorphs can easily glide from high perches and ambush their prey using their claws and secondary jaws. This kind of attack method definitely changes up the game for the Xenomorphs when you compare them with the ground-based drones we're accustomed to. We would go so far as to say that with this, the Xenomorphs kind of proved that they could be the perfect aerial predators if they simply adapted right. And thematically, this version simply beats the message home that aliens would dominate in whatever environment they found themselves in. We're a little sad to say that this flying alien never made it to the big screen, but hey, it gained a lot of traction amongst fans. It's an extremely creative take on the Xenomorph, and writers have often referenced this winged variant just to prove how dangerous the environmental adaptation can be when it comes to Xenomorphs. The Newborn. Alien Resurrection. We got to see this creature for the first time in Alien Resurrection, which came out in 1997. Director Jean-Pierre Jeunet went above and beyond to extend the lore about the Xenomorphs by introducing this creature in an interesting way. Unlike the typical parasitic host infection that we've seen on screen up until this point, the Newborn was created using genetic manipulation. Scientists created the Newborn by cloning Ellen Ripley using genetic samples mixed with queen DNA. This resulted in a hybrid queen who eventually gave birth to a grotesque child who we know as the Newborn. Now, when it comes to the visuals of the Newborn, it's absolutely disgusting. I mean, that visual design is absolutely terrifying. It doesn't have that biomechanical black carapace that we're accustomed to. Instead, it's pale and fleshy. Its skull has human-like features with eyes like ours and a twisted jaw that's clearly malformed. This was the first time on screen that the alien in question deviated from the iconic Giger-esque aesthetic that we're so used to. Unlike other Xenomorphs, the Newborn's abilities lacked definition. Instead, it pushed its way past any and every obstacle with strength, rage, and brutal efficiency. Despite the primal nature of this creature, it showed a deep emotional connection with Ripley. It saw Ripley as its mother, and in a way, this little factor gave this creature an emotional layer that no one else had, setting it apart from the cold and instinctive killers we've met up until this point. With such an iconic design, this creature ended up dividing fans for decades. Some found its design and symbolism brilliant because it clearly represented the horror of human interference with alien DNA, echoing the concept of human hubris messing with things beyond their control. Parallel, other fans felt that this alien was one of the weakest interpretations of the species. It had poor design execution, and something about it simply didn't click with the larger fandom. Despite all the debate, one thing is clear: this particular alien variant stands out amongst all the variants we've seen on screen since and before, and it perfectly embodies the dangers of tampering with forces that should not be tampered with. It's as horrifying as it is tragic, and we kinda love it for that. Trilobite and Deacon Connection, Prometheus. So let me tell you, I saw Prometheus in theaters when it came out back in 2012, and I kid you not, that Trilobite literally haunted my dreams for the next few days. For those who don't know, Prometheus was another film directed by Ridley Scott that introduced us to another aspect of the Alien franchise regarding their evolution. The Trilobite in question is created when humans are infected with black goo, as we saw in the case of Elizabeth Shaw. It is this huge facehugger-like organism, and then then, in the climax of the movie, we saw the creature implanting itself into an engineer, giving us the Deacon. The Deacon is a proto-xenomorph that kind of acts like the connecting link between the engineer's bioweapons and the aliens we know oh so well. First, let's talk about the Trilobite. This creature is built like a squid. Not the squid you eat for calamari, mind you. This thing's a Kraken-esque monster. In a way, you could say that the Trilobite shows how facehuggers can go through adaptation and become bigger and badder. We all know that the engineers are pretty strong and terrifying in their own regard, but oh boy. In front of the Trilobite, the engineer was like a stick figure that snapped in half. The size and the power of the Trilobites are truly scary to witness. And then, the Deacon that came out of the engineer was this blue-gray creature with a pointed skull, sleek skin, and this iconic inner jaw. But unlike other xenomorphs we've seen so far in the franchise, the Deacon didn't have that biomechanical polish. So you could say in a way, the Deacon looked unfinished, a bit too raw and embryonic in a way, and that was kind of the point. For us though, the Trilobites were scary not just because of their size and strength, but also because of what they implied. With that size and strength, the Trilobite is basically proof that no matter what size of host it comes across, it can easily incapacitate them and implant an embryo inside the host. The Deacon, on the other hand, was more like a reminder of xenomorph lethality. It was brutal, swift, and primal, and the fact that it can be this devastating while embryonic kind of implies that if the Deacon grew bigger, it would be completely unstoppable. Thematically speaking, both of these creatures served as stepping stones to expand the lore about the black goo and how it can manipulate DNA. While we got to see the Trilobite on screen for a while, Deacon didn't get the same screen time. However, during its brief appearance, it did manage to capture fans' hearts, which resulted in them begging for the Deacon's return. Although it never returned in the sequel, given how pivotal this creature is in the lore, this is one of the most underexplored variants in the series. Fans believe that maybe the Deacon was what inspired David's little jump down the rabbit hole, as we saw in Alien Covenant, which resulted in the Neomorphs and Xenomorphs that we saw in that movie. Spitter Xenomorph, Aliens, Colonial Marines. This xenomorph is actually a variant introduced in the 2013 video game Aliens Colonial Marines. Alright gamers, this is your time to shine. Even though a lot of fans felt that this game wasn't as good as they hoped, there were no complaints about the Spitter alien. This xenomorph remains an astounding addition to the xenomorph lore, especially since this creature was designed specifically to fill a tactical niche that was usually absent in traditional hives. When you have a Spitter and a normal xenomorph next to one another, you'll immediately recognize the Spitter because of the acid burn scars around its mouth and the distended head crest. These two design choices were intentional as they emphasized the unique attack method of effectively projectile vomiting acid from a distance. This immediately made the Spitter xenomorph a bit more dangerous than our normie xenomorphs. While other xenomorphs excelled in close-quarter ambushes, the Spitter instead acted like ranged artillery. Their main goal was to soften the targets before the drones closed in on them. With the Spitter projecting concentrated acid at significant ranges, it often managed to force the Marines out of cover. This serves to balance the swarm's typical melee focus with range suppression that makes the hive much harder to infiltrate and the gameplay a lot more interesting. Perhaps due to its specialization, the Spitter has a distinct lack of resilience when you compare it to a warrior xenomorph, but that's no issue, as despite the lack of resilience, the Spitter succeeds in getting the job done. Fans appreciated the Spitter because of just how beautiful, destructive, and creative this creature is. Fans often cite the Spitter xenomorph as proof of hive tactics and evolving adaptability amongst the xenomorphs. They've also noticed that the Spitter's design very much resembles unused early concept art for the Alien franchise because, surprise surprise, originally this acid projection was considered as a possibility. Crab Alien, Kenner toy line, expanded in Aliens Genocide. The Aliens Genocide comics also gave us something that we weren't at all expecting. Remember when we talked about Kenner's toy line from the early 90s, the crocodile alien? Well, along with that, they also introduced us to Crab Alien. Now at first, this was just an interesting concept, but then Aliens Genocide decided to bring it to life in a way. This crab alien has multiple spindly legs and a body design that's very much like the crustacean it's mixed with. It also has chitinous armor and claw-like appendages, hammering home the deep-sea predator aesthetic it has going for it. It's the fusion of a marine creature and an alien, making it truly one of the most unsettling designs ever. This design makes us feel like it can exist in space as well as our oceans. Given its features, this creature is absolutely excellent at aquatic ambushes. Its multiple legs provide it with stability and speed in water, which makes it a dangerous predator in an aquatic environment. It uses its big claws to crush prey with ease, highlighting the adaptability of Xenomorphs yet again. Like most toys from Kenner Creations, this Crab Alien 2 was often dismissed as a toy line oddity, but as it got included in Aliens Genocide, the Crab Alien gained semi-canon recognition, proving that even playful inventions like this can inspire more serious lore, which is definitely a good point. The Red Xenomorph and Kenner's Crab Alien toys look kind of similar, so fans have theorized that perhaps this toy was what inspired the writers to introduce the Red Xenomorphs. Well, that's up for speculation. What we know for a fact is that the Crab Alien would be one of the coolest aliens to see in action, especially because it can fire chest bursters at its victims. Say what you want, but there's clearly potential in this variant. Predalien, Alien vs. Predator Requiem plus comics. The first appearance of the Predalien dates back to Dark Horse Comics, but most of us remember the Predalien from the movie Alien vs. Predator Requiem, which came out in 2007. In this film, the Predalien bursts out of the chest of a fallen predator, showing the clear fusion of traits from both species. This creature has the biomechanical features of both xenomorphs and predators, giving it dreadlock-like appendages, mandibles, and a stockier physique. Unlike drones and warriors, the Predalien is bigger in size and prefers to use brute force instead of stealth. The hybrid design was eye-catching and sparked a lot of debate amongst fans. The strong and capable Predalien was truly memorable to watch on screen. In AVP Requiem, the Predalien could easily implant embryos directly into hosts without any need for facehuggers, which is terrifying to say the least. This interesting parasitic nature and accelerated reproductive cycle made this creature more dangerous than any other xenomorphs we've ever seen. Now, there's no denying that the Predalien is infamous. However, sadly, the Predalien is still underrated owing to its depiction in the film. Fans found this depiction rather controversial, especially since the poor lighting and storytelling made what could have been a terrifying villain end up being not that. As we dive deeper into the alien lore, the Predalien is shown with a lot more nuance and layers instead of just being used as an idea. White hybrids / prototype xenomorphs, Alien Covenant. The last alien on our list comes from the 2017 movie Alien Covenant, directed by Ridley Scott. In this film, we're introduced to a completely new stage of xenomorph evolution which shocked us all. In this movie, David, the android from Prometheus, experimented with the black goo bioweapon and the DNA of countless organisms. This resulted in the creation of several pale and incomplete creatures known as prototype xenomorphs or white hybrids. These creatures are extremely memorable once you see them. Their pale skin has none of the black biomechanical outer covering that we're so used to seeing. Their elongated skulls paired with the fanged mouth evokes a primal fear in anyone who dares to look their way. Their design is undeniably classic, but somehow it feels unfinished. Their twitchy and animalistic movements, paired with the raw visuals, make these look like something that just stepped out of a nightmare. Now, one thing we have to mention when talking about these white hybrids is just how ferocious and agile they are. White hybrids have to be the most agile out of all the xenomorph variations, but despite being so quick on their feet, they lack refined efficiency. You could say that the whole purpose of their existence is to be the stepping stones in David's experiments, showing the trial and error process he used to create what we now know as the perfect organism. Thematically, you could say that these white hybrids represent the consequences of playing God and the dark side of scientific obsession. When it comes to fan reception, the white hybrids got a mild reception. I mean, we can't blame the fans. The movie also gave us neomorphs and xenomorphs, which definitely had us all excited. However, that doesn't take away from the importance of the white hybrids in the evolutionary journey of the xenomorphs. The idea that these creatures were artificially achieved instead of occurring naturally is also completely terrifying, because that implies something worse than the white hybrids is just one little gene combination away. Marvelous verdict. As the Alien franchise has grown in size, we've been introduced to several xenomorph variants across different media. Whether it's films, comics, toys, or video games, everyone exercised their creativity, giving us something new while holding on to the terrifying model of the xenomorphs. Now, many of these variants never reached mainstream recognition and aren't well known within the fandom, but when you look into them, you realize that they signify just how deep the creative sphere runs in this particular fandom. We have everything from lab-born tyrants to aquatic crab aliens. Each variant we've listed in this video expands the mythos of the Alien franchise in one way or another. While they may vary in shape and size, one thing remains consistent. The xenomorphs are always deadly, always adaptable, and always waiting in the shadows for the right moment to pounce. With that, we've come to the end of our video. Let us know down below which variants you already knew about, which ones were your favorite, and which ones came as a surprise, and we'll see you in the next one. As always, if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.